Moshi Moshi.
Hello,
I'm Zeb Ramsbotham,
and I'm Annie Ramsbotham.
and we're the Rambling Ramsbothams.
Our journey may be rambling, but we hope this podcast isn't.
Here we are, again, for another episode.
We have some reviews this time.
I'm especially fidgety because last time you said I was fidgeting too much, and so now that's all I can think about is sitting in my chair and just scooting around.
As long as you don't do it audibly.
I know, it's kind of similar to saying the word like. I try not to use that word, and then now that I'm thinking about it,
you're going to say like all the time.
I know I'm going to be fidgety and saying like all the time, which hopefully won't detract from people leaving us reviews because we got 2 especially nice reviews recently. And I forgot to check the dates, but if you left these before we recorded the last episode, I'm sorry I didn't see them.
So the first one was recorded on the day that we were recording the last episode. And then the other one, I don't remember. I think more recently.
Okay, it's kind of strange because Apple, so you can't leave a written review on Spotify, but Apple actually doesn't notify us if we get a review.
Yeah.
So I guess we just need to be checking.
And also, you can email us and tell us that you left a review, because then I can send you one of the painted frog postcards.
Oh, yeah.
If you want that. Maybe you're like, I don't like frogs. But
there's still some available, and they're hand painted by Annie.
And frog means, frog is good luck. So
yeah, she'll send you some
return,
luck.
So
for whatever you're doing. But
return some luck to you.
First review we'll read.
Yeah, it's my favorite review, I think.
It really cracks me up. It's
you should read it.
Your boy E. So thanks, E, my boy. He says, it's great to hear about topics such as the JET program, weekend adventures, and the mundane daily events of living in Japan. I also appreciate the interspersed dry humor.
I told Zeb, this is like my favorite review. I'm going to make a shirt now that says, like, listen when we talk about my mundane life.
Yeah, because sometimes we do talk about that. We joke about, does it make sense that we have a podcast?
No.
And why do we have a podcast? And why do people listen to us? Because sometimes we joke about how, we're the Rambling Ramsbothams and we just get on here and kind of ramble about our lives.
But I guess, like, in anime, the slice of life anime is popular, and, like, some of those books that I like to read
genres
are just about, like, daily high school life is, like, a huge genre. And I'm not in high school anymore, but I'll still read those books about, like, nothing more than just high schoolers doing their daily stuff. So maybe it's cozy in a way.
And I think about it that I guess I actually don't listen to any podcasts that are in a similar vein to ours. That's just people talking about their lives. Like, I listen to travel podcasts and other podcasts, but I really enjoy, one of my favorite things I've realized I like about living in Japan is when I walk around cities and stuff, I like to see, it's just so dense with the living. Like, there's so many people in such a small area. And I like to walk around and, on my way to, like, night class or something like that, I'll look at people's houses, and hopefully I'm not some creep, like, leering in through their windows. To be clear,
you don't look in the houses, but...
No, I try not to. But I look at their houses, and I like to think about, I imagine a life that they're living. And so maybe I wish that they had a podcast, and I could listen to it, and I could just eavesdrop and kind of see, like, I wonder what that house is, especially when they're cooking something and it smells good, or they're doing laundry. And I'm like, dang, I wonder what kind of detergent they're using, because it smells really good. I don't know.
Yeah,
you don't think about that kind of stuff when you're walking around the city?
No, I do, especially with the food smells and stuff. Yeah. Or just, like, seeing, like, when people leave their shoes out on the doorstep, and you're like, oh, they must have kids, because there's, like, little shoes there.
Yeah,
or
you see, like, bikes that are, like, thrown into the, like, driveway.
Or, like, oh, they must have a pet. Like, they've got a leash on the doorstep,
Like,
stuff like that it's kind of fun to just, like, think about all the...
Someone's listening to this now, like, man, these people are psychopaths. I can't believe...
Maybe we should get off that topic
anymore. But... Anyway, so the second review is from Ian. And actually, I think Ian followed me on Strava. So maybe I should follow Ian back.
Maybe he'll ride with us one day in Japan.
He left this review, and then when I read the review, I was like, why does that name sound familiar? And I looked at my Strava, and I was like, oh, it's...
Well, I can read this one.
Guy. Okay.
So I've been slowly making my way through from the start since early March, and just now have caught up to the most recent episode. I really enjoy how the podcast focuses on the real life / everyday things in Japan. Far too often the country is sensationalized and exaggerated, and I much prefer the side of living that is more authentic, I guess. I especially enjoy hearing about the riding and racing, specifically the JBCF, as I've only really followed the JCL Pro League. This podcast is a great find for me as I am a Japan and Japanese language enthusiast, a cyclist, and an avid traveler.
That's cool.
Yeah, we should be friends with Ian.
Yeah, thanks, Ian.
Have you heard of the JCL Pro League?
I have. So there are like a few different leagues and different organizations in Japan that organize racing series. The JBCF was billed to me as kind of the big one, that if you're trying to shoot for road racing in Japan, you should aim for the JBCF. But the JCL is also like one of them. And then there's another one. It's like the AACA or something. I'm a little out of touch though.
And then there's also just like one-day events. Like,
yeah, sometimes they're just races, because this guy I follow on Strava, he did a Kaga hill climb. So here in Ishikawa this past weekend. And I was like,
I think
dang,
there was
how
a
did you hear
multi-day
about that?
event because there's a girl I follow on Strava. She's a
Oh.
Japanese lady, and she rode 82 miles or something insane, but it was 30 laps, like a circle. And I was like, wow,
Well, I mean,
she
it's
just
like a
like
circuit race.
went out and did that. Yeah, and then I realized it was a race, but I just thought she was like doing intervals or something.
Yeah,
I was
just
like,
for
dang,
fun.
she's like preparing. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
one of those like, how many laps can you do in this set amount of time?
Oh, yeah, because they have events that are really popular called enduros.
That's what it was. It said
Okay.
enduro, but in my mind, an enduro is on a mountain bike, and
Yeah,
it's
in Japan,
timed
an enduro
downhills.
is, they give you like 3 hours, and they're like, all right, how many
Oh.
laps can you do in 3 hours?
Like, how much can you endure?
I think so. Like, it's an endurance event.
That makes more sense, I guess. But
Yeah. Anyway, back on just, appreciate hearing Ian's kind words.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that our podcast fills a niche in his listening library.
yeah,
It's really
very
cool.
kind.
Yeah.
So this week we're gonna answer some questions that my sister actually brought up, and it's a different sister than the ones that you heard the voices on when they came and toured Tokyo and things with us. Those were my youngest sisters. This is a different one. So Lucy's questions. She says, first of all, love listening. I'm a bit behind, currently on the January timeline. So here's some thoughts from then. She walks her dog every afternoon after work, and she says, I really look forward to that time because I put my earbuds in and listen to you guys' podcast. It's enjoyable, light, interesting, informative, makes me laugh a lot to myself at the park, and makes me happy to know you guys are doing and discovering so much, which is very
That's nice.
kind. Yeah.
And that's probably why our podcast is so like slice of life, because when we initially made it, we kind of had it in our heads that, oh, maybe people will listen to this. But then you kind of tell yourself, no one's
Yeah.
actually going to listen to us.
I'm honestly flattered that my sisters listen to it more
Yeah.
than like strangers, because
Yeah.
my sisters are probably like, I don't need to hear more from her. Like,
Well, that's kind of the funny thing.
I
Yeah,
hear
we
plenty from her
we
already.
kind of made it for friends and family to kind of keep
Yeah.
in touch. And then kind of, in our wildest dreams, we're like, oh, maybe
to
like
stay updated.
other strangers will want to listen to what we're talking about.
Yeah, not
But
anymore after you talked about how you like creep in on strangers' houses.
Sorry. I just think, I'm really interested in mundane lives.
Yeah, so she asks a couple different questions. The first one she was asking was when we talked about visiting shrines, she was wondering, do people visit Shinto shrines on specific days of the week? And her example was like how Christians go to church on Sundays mostly. And it's a good question. There's actually not a specific day of the week, like a holy day. There are,
Yeah,
like
it's
we've
not
talked
like
about,
Wednesday is Shrine Day.
yeah. There are like days of the year, but I think every religion has that, where there's, a special day that year that you,
Yeah.
like when you take your baby to the shrine, and we talked
Yeah.
about last week and
Or
stuff.
when you do your Hatsumode and you go for the new year, or big event.
Yeah. But no,
but, I
there's
mean,
not like a weekly shrine day.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's maybe more like a thing that you go to the shrine when you need something, like an exam's coming up, or maybe there's something important in your life coming up, and you go to the shrine to kind of ask for,
Yeah, you can
like, hey, can you hook me up with a little bit of, luck or
yeah,
something?
you can buy like good luck tokens and stuff.
Yeah, so I don't think there's a day, but I mean, and maybe there is, maybe there are people out there that have, like,
Yeah.
I go to the shrine every Tuesday
Yeah,
or
so
something.
let us know
But,
if you go on a certain day. Her other question, she was listening back to the time, I think this was like back around January or December. I met a really kind lady who lives like north of Kanazawa, and she's a certified kimono fitter, like a person who helps you wear kimono. And she let me and another friend come and try one on, and she let me wear the really formal Iro Uchikake like robe that brides wear. So anyway, that's back in that month if you haven't heard that one. But Lucy was asking, so are there non-formal kimonos and do they have less than 10 layers, she says, because I kept talking about how many, that one specifically had a lot of layers. So
yeah, really wrapped up like
yeah.
a present.
Yeah, so yes.
It was in December. Because it was around my birthday.
Oh.
And she made that joke. That I just thought about that.
Yeah. That I was going to be like a present for you.
Yeah.
A little odd, but
Yeah.
kind, I guess. Yeah, so there's at least a dozen different kinds of kimono for women. And the word kimono actually means wear thing. Mono is thing.
Yeah. I recently got it we use Wanikani to study kanji. And I recently got it in my kanji practicing. And I was like, oh, it's wear thing.
Yeah.
And you just say kimono.
Yeah, so kimono is basically like when we're speaking in English and we're talking about clothing items.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a clothing item.
Yeah, it's a thing you wear.
Of course, now people don't really wear them daily in the same way that they used to, but it still means that. So that robe was the very top level, probably tied only with the shiramuki, which is also a wedding attire, but it's all white. The uchikake is a robe that there's not like an obi sash tied around it because it goes over the kimono. And then the shiramuki, like if you've seen maybe pictures of brides with the kind of like Pope hat looking thing where it's a white, like rounded, very large cap you put over.
I honestly don't know if even I've looked at
Oh,
pictures
really?
of this. Yeah.
If
Maybe
you look
like
up,
it's
like,
like a girl.
Japanese
like,
traditional bride.
Yeah.
So that's a shiramuki. But yeah, a furisode is the next level. So that's the most formal style of kimono that's worn by usually unmarried young women. And it's characterized by the really long sleeves. So most of the time people will wear this during their coming of age ceremony when they become 20 because it's like the most formal time. You're usually not married by then. So you have the long sleeves and like, I don't know, I guess I imagine like you and your girlfriends are like, oh, we're adults now.
Yeah, I just think some of this stuff is so interesting because what are the and I think we talked about this before on the podcast. What do the long sleeves mean?
I don't know. That's a good question.
What are they?
I should look that up.
I guess we could ask Big Mama.
So,
what do the sleeves mean?
Yeah, so Big Mama is what the woman who dressed me in the kimono, she was like, oh, call me Big Mama. And I was like, I cannot call you Big Mama.
Why not?
It's too informal.
She asked you. She said, please.
Yeah. I was like, I need to call you like Mrs. Big Mama or something. Like,
Wow.
I can't.
It's like Mrs. Doubtfire.
She's
Mrs.
very,
Big Mama.
she's very kind and funny though. I enjoyed that experience.
Yeah.
So the shorter sleeves are found on tomesode, which are the highly formal kimono if you're married. So once you're married, cut the sleeves off. You don't cut them off, but then you begin to wear kimono that have short sleeves. And again, we should look
that's
up
another
that.
interesting thing. Can you get your kimono altered? Like, is that a thing that people do?
You
like, once
probably-
you become married, can you take your kimono in and get the sleeves hemmed?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'm sure you can, but
I
it
guess you'd
seems
probably
like a
want to keep it
waste.
because then maybe if you had kids,
Yeah.
you could give it to you could like pass it down.
I think a lot of times people will
But-
keep a kimono in the family for like decades, and it's also very nice silk. Like especially these formal kimonos are very nice silk, and you wouldn't want to cut anything off because it's like
That's
a
true.
waste of
Yeah.
very nice fabric.
But it's also interesting because talking about all these it's like ceremonial formal clothing, but it's kind of like if we were discussing like a suit in America or like in the Western culture. It's still like an item of clothing that is worn, maybe not in daily life, but it's not something that they only break out like once a decade or something.
Yeah.
It's still
and
a
I guess
fairly
it's like,
normal item of clothing.
you know how black tie events in the Western world have like
Yeah.
coattails and
Yeah.
things? Like there's like a very, very formal suit that is very rare. So I guess that's the same with kimono. Like there still are those very, very formal things, but you just maybe wear it like once in your life or not. I mean, like you've probably never
I
worn.
guess it depends on what social circle you're part of.
Yeah.
We haven't we don't wear these things very often.
Yeah.
But maybe some people, they go to black tie events regularly.
Maybe. So I also did like a very quick Google search on long sleeves just now, and this says that the custom happened because it makes dancing look more like beautiful, I guess, the long
like
sleeves.
wispy or something,
I guess. And so I guess, you want to look beautiful, and then once you're married, it doesn't matter, so we'll just make
Chop
the
'em off.
sleeves more realistic again. But I don't know. If you're listening and you know, please tell me. So after the tomasode, there's the homongi, which means visiting wear. And those are semi-formal kimono, and married or unmarried women can wear these. And tsuke sage are less formal, like one step below that, and so they're for modest events. And these are ones that you would probably see a little more commonly. So, like, sometimes when we see Japanese parents at school events, they'll wear kimono, and they might be wearing a more formal one, but they are probably wearing, like, the tsukasage type.
Yeah,
Like,
I've seen it a couple times at our graduation ceremony. And then I think the opening ceremony, there might have been a couple parents. But the one that really impressed me was the graduation ceremony. One of the homeroom teachers wore like a super fancy.
yeah,
She was like very dressed up.
that's very
It blew
cool.
me away. Especially because she was the one that's the PE teacher.
So
And
you
so she's
usually see her in
always,
a tracksuit.
yeah, she's always just super laid back. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden there was this woman in this like very serious kimono.
Shocking.
It really threw
Really-
me for a loop.
Zeb was impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are ideal for those kind of like graduation ceremonies, parties, like semi-formal tea party type things. That also, the article I was reading also mentioned like kabuki plays or like a theater performance. So
Yeah, I guess
You
you
might
could, like
wear-
go into the opera or something.
Yeah,
Maybe
like
get
a-
dressed up.
traditional art kind of thing you would watch. So then below that, kind of in the less formal category, komon it means small pattern, and so those are kimonos that have like usually a consistent pattern throughout or like a solid color, and those are more daily wear. And then natsu no kimono, which means summer kimono, is like really thin. It doesn't have a liner, and so you would usually wear that only during the hottest months. And the article I
Which
was
we're going to need soon.
I know, it's getting toasty again.
Yeah.
But apparently the rainy season comes first and then the summer. So
Someone warned me about that today.
the rainy season.
Yeah, they were like, oh, Zeb. They're like,
Yeah.
the rainy season's almost here. And I
I
was
know,
like,
I'm
oh,
kind
no.
of worried about it because everyone talks about it with such like impending doom. Like
Yeah.
my friends today it rained and they were like, let's get coffee tomorrow. Like the rain is happening today, but it shouldn't happen tomorrow. Like I really hope the rainy season isn't here yet. And I was like, oh, okay.
It does seem nice because looking at the 2-week forecast, the temperature's kind of, it cools off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, even today, I mean, it was the first time we've had rain in a little bit, which is
Mhm.
kind of surprising. But the humidity today was,
Yeah.
oh,
And it was
Not
like
really.
the sun never fully came out. It wasn't constantly pouring, but it was like always drizzly.
mhm.
So even just that is kind of a mood suck, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah, one day once we get past this upcoming rain season and then we're into the truly summer months, you'll wear the natsu no kimono. And then finally, last one, I know I've been talking about kimono for a while, but a yukata means bath clothes. But even though it literally means bath clothes, it's no longer limited to just going to or from the bath.
Oh, yeah, because is it like the kanji U for...
Yeah, like hot water.
Oh, okay.
So this is what you'll get if you stay in a ryokan and they give you like kind of the robe looking thing when you check
Mhm.
in. Those are your yukata, and they're usually cotton. And those can be worn by women of all ages, but also by men. So just like a bathrobe,
Yeah.
kind of.
And you don't have to wear it.
No.
Like, they give it to you as an option, and sometimes they'll even just have it, or even like a business hotel will have them at the front desk,
Mhm.
and sometimes they put them in your room. But now we've seen maybe it's a little more common that they'll have them at the front desk, and you can
Mhm.
just pick one up on your way to the room. If you're a tall person, usually the max size is like 175 centimeters,
Mhm.
which I think is right about like 5'9", which
Yeah.
I'm 5'9", so, and I'm not a very tall person.
Yeah, we like barely fit in the yukata.
And
I
that's
think
like
you could get
the
away with
biggest.
like all the way up to like just under 6 feet, but it would be
I
short.
think you could be even taller, but yeah, I mean, at some point you're going to be showing some like calf or something, which
Heaven
I think,
forbid.
yeah, I think like maybe a Japanese person would be like, dang,
I guess
that
it's
looks
like
weird,
not
but
like traditional, but also it would be obvious if you're really tall. They'd be like, oh well,
yeah,
can't be helped.
yeah. I don't think anyone would like say anything.
No.
Although we did stay in that onsen hotel, and there was the review that got left by some poor woman.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how like
Her burly man
my
couldn't
husband's
fit
a
in a
big burly American man, and he was busting out of the yukata, and he couldn't. Yeah, it was a bit much.
So just make sure it's tied fully in the front, and then I think it'll be fine. I don't think anybody cares
Yeah.
about anything below the knee, but
Yeah.
make sure you're not so burly or busting out of anything.
But these are pretty comfortable.
Yeah, they are.
It does feel, it feels a little strange because I guess we have this like experience a lot where as foreigners, you feel weird putting it on because I think in America we're so like cognizant now of the whole like idea of like cultural appropriation and like not trying to offend anyone. But it feels almost weirder now to be walking around in a ryokan and be wearing your like, your US PJs. Like if I'm just like cruising around.
I don't
and
have PJs that have like
I
the
know, but I'm
American
saying-
flag on them.
But I'm saying like I'll wear, what I would normally wear around the house.
yeah.
And if I wear that around the ryokan, I feel like I'm sticking out, like I'm busting up the vibe,
Yeah.
because everyone else is in their yukata. And so you're kind of, yeah, I mean, now I don't worry about it as much. So definitely if you come to Japan and you get offered a yukata,
Yeah.
toss it on,
I guess
give it a
the
try.
appropriation part would be, it would become appropriation if you were wearing something that was meant in a certain situation in a different situation.
Yeah,
like
that's
if you
true.
were wearing it inappropriately and, like as a costume.
Or if it was truly like a
pretending.
ritualistic.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you were treating it without the respect it was supposed to have, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
these things I'll just give them to you. Be like, hey man, put this on. And you're like, okay.
yeah, but you can always ask someone if you're not sure like how to wear it or tie it or.
Yeah, because the only thing I mess up all the time is there's a certain way you fold it on the front. I think it's like right and then left. And then there's a certain way you tie the sash, because they do one for a funeral service and then they do one for when you're a living person.
But again, don't worry about it, because the good thing about being so obviously foreign is that people will take one look at you and they're like,
and I
oh,
don't
well,
know
you don't mean anything by it.
I don't know
you
if
just
they
don't
have
know.
like the trained eye, because I was thinking about it. Like, I mean, I guess if I was really staring at someone, I could be like, oh, theirs is tied differently.
I don't think people
But just
would
in
really
passing in the
notice.
hallway, I've never even thought about how's he doing his. But again, we're just a couple of Americans.
Well,
But yeah, the yukatas are cool.
So the yukata also, so we've been talking about it in the context of the hotel or your ryokan, but you can actually see these outside of like a hotel nighttime setting. And so sometimes people will wear these for matsuri, which is festival, like in the summer, or just strolling around town. Usually when people are strolling around and they're like, they've rented the kimono for photos. Usually those are like nice kimonos and they've rented it for
They're doing their like photo shoot and like hanging out for the day and looking good.
But sometimes if
someone dressed them.
Right.
Like,
But if they own the yukata and they're wearing it out, it is like appropriate to wear it in public.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you have like the underliner, kind of like the underneath kimono robe. So you're not just like
underwear.
so you're not just like underwearless out there, but yeah, you can wear the cotton yukata outside of the bath setting.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you'll see that too, like, kind of in a more historic area. You'll see people that are kind of like popping out of their hotels real quick, and they'll just be
especially
wearing
if there's a bath town, like an onsen town, and the open air bath is like down the street, and you might be staying in one place, but the popular bath is like down the street. You can just walk in your robe.
It does make it super convenient hopping in the bath.
Yeah.
Because you just undo the sash and then you can just drop that thing right off and then
Ready for the
slide
bath.
right in. Yeah, you're easy.
Goodness.
Oh, sorry. I was just,
So I was reading that the yukata became popular during the Edo period, and then it developed into the single layer, like cotton thing that you wear now. But it used to be silk, and it was only for upper class. And around the 1800s, the priests would wear it in the water for part of their like Shinto bathing purification rituals. And then the samurai and the noble class were like, oh, that seems cool. Like, we want to be pure.
I'm into that.
But then silk is like not ideal to get wet. So they started to wear cotton or linen type stuff. And then it, trickled down to middle and lower classes.
Well, yeah, I guess I imagine once you start making it not out of silk, which
Yeah,
is
people are like, oh,
historically
we have
super
cotton.
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. So then it became more of the custom to just wear it to the bathhouse, like a public
Mm.
bathhouse. And so now we've got the modern day yukata.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty interesting, and we're such big fans of Japanese style clothing. We bought our own.
Yeah. We need to buy the rest of the, like, accoutrements. I don't know what the word is, but the rest of the
I guess like
parts.
accessories.
So I have probably what I have is the komon, like we didn't buy the silk kimonos. Those would be thousands of dollars, like very formal. So what we bought was more of the, like a step up from yukata, maybe. And so I
I
probably
don't know.
have
Mine's
the
fairly
daily
formal.
wear. Zed
'Cause
thinks his is a really big deal, but we didn't
no,
spend
it's not a big deal.
we didn't spend enough for it to be a
So
big
it was
deal.
actually a secondhand shop, so it was a little more affordable. But I had to look it up because honestly, I don't really know. I think the clothing is really cool, very stylish, in the right setting, and it is interesting. I am excited that there are like summer festivals, and this is total slice of life anime scene. You know, when people are dressed up for the summer festival, that's like a thing that people do get dressed up to go, and yeah, I'd be into that.
Yeah,
So,
so are you going to wear yours this weekend? Cuz
oh,
there's
does this weekend count?
this weekend there's it's the biggest festival in our city.
Oh,
We'll talk about
maybe.
more about this next week after we've actually been to it, but it's the Hyakumangoku Festival. So the 100,000 or 100 it's
$1
it's
million dollar.
1 million, but the way that you get to 1 million is 10.
It's 110,000.
That's what it is.
Yeah, Hyakuman.
Yeah, sorry.
110,000. Yeah.
So it's a million, but they don't have the word for million. They have Hyakuman. So
Yeah, maybe. So I figured out men's kimono, and this could be totally false. So if you're taking a test about traditional Japanese clothing for men, uh, do your own research because I googled this really quickly, and there are a lot of different like varying things about different styles and different things, but the most basic kind of quick rundown of men's kimono that I could find was there are essentially three pieces. There's the nagagi, which is kind of like the robe piece. So that's kind of like the fancier yukata is the nagagi.
like the part that covers your whole body.
Yep. And then on top of that, you could wear haori, which is the jacket. And then if you're super fancy, you combine all that with the hakama, which is the skirt.
It's like
So
the
it's-
pleated kind of like front skirt
yeah, I was
apron
trying to
thing.
think like
You'll see like
you definitely seen it in movies, like you've seen The Last Samurai. Ken Watanabe's character, I'm pretty sure, is wearing this at one point. I think our boy Tom Cruise gets its own at one point. But so I think basically the order of formality for men that I saw, it kind of goes if you combine all three versus if you just do one, which obviously hopefully you wouldn't do just the coat or just the skirt. But
nothing but the coat.
yeah, just the coat on. That would be the
Yeah,
least formal.
So start with the yukata.
Yeah,
with
so
the nagagi.
the most informal is the nagagi, which is you'd just be wearing like the robe. And apparently now it is somewhat fashionable to wear that just like out and about, that because it's so informal that it's kind of seen as like daily wear, that you can kind of, and they called it something different and I can't quite remember the name. But you could just wear that and you'd be good without like any of the accessories. So obviously you wouldn't use the obi, which men do have the obi, like the big
Like the
wide belt.
sash.
Yeah, sash.
I don't
so-
really see many men in kimono in the city though.
We saw one. The very first bike race we went to, we were eating breakfast, and that guy came down to eat breakfast, and he had the full thing on. He had the hakama on too. He had like the pleated skirt.
Oh, really?
He was like
Oh,
full
I don't
blown.
remember that. I
Yeah,
wonder
he
where
was
going.
I don't know, but he was kitted up. He was
Wow.
looking good. So yeah, you would go from just the nagagi to the nagagi plus the haori, so you'd be wearing the jacket, and that's kind of like level 2 formality. Like, and the website I saw did have pictures showing you like what events you'd be going to in each kind of like each step.
Yeah.
And then it was interesting because then up from there, going to most formal, it was kind of the same thing as second rate formal, but apparently the jacket can have different panels or different, they called them kamon. So it can have different like paneling. And apparently if you're wearing a 5 panel haori, that's like
The
the
best.
the super fancy, really cool. And then it gets even a little more complicated. And at this point, I don't know how you would tell the difference, but each one has like 2 or 3 different styles of fabric it can be made out of. So then you can kind of have like varying levels of formality. Like, oh, if you have the 5 panel one and it's made out of this specific silk and it has this specific pattern, like, oh, that's the really good one.
That's cool. I bet there's some people that just study just kimono. I mean,
Oh
that's
yeah, for
what
sure.
Big Mama
Yeah.
did because she
I mean,
had
she
to
has
get her
her
license.
yeah, to dress people.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if we asked her this stuff, she would be like, she
Yeah,
could
you're
probably
wrong.
talk for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was like really interesting to read about, and I think all this stuff is pretty fascinating.
I wonder if
but
there's
yeah,
less.
it's a little beyond me.
Like, it seems like there's a little less options for men, and I wonder if that's because you also have the formality of the, like, if you were a soldier or a samurai or, you know, there's other kinds of clothing that you would wear as a man. And
I think so, and then maybe there are also just different, like they were kind of getting into the designs and the patterns. Maybe those can, and then there are other kind of accessories.
and I guess
and
with any
then-
culture, like, it's always seems to always be more important for the woman to be like beautiful and to have all these different
Yeah, they said that
options,
typically the
so-
men kind of wear muted colors,
Yeah.
which I think it was interesting that the jacket that I have, the lady at the shop said specifically it was like an Okinawa style. So I always think that's pretty interesting. Like if I wore
Yeah.
it somewhere, would there be someone that's like, hey, like,
That's an Okinawa style
Yeah,
jacket.
did you go to
Yeah, we
Okinawa?
should
And
find
I'd-
out what makes it that way.
I
It's
think it
kind
was
of
something
green,
about like the art
but...
or something. But
Oh yeah, I did like the inside of your jacket has like art on the inner panels, which is kind of cool because no one would see that.
I know, and it's really interesting because, yeah,
You
I
just know it. I don't know. It
Yeah,
makes
I
the
guess it's for
clothing
you.
feel more beautiful to
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
it's
So
very interesting.
yeah, hopefully we can. I need to get like the underwear robe so I can wear mine out, and I also need to get one of my Japanese friends to actually show me how to wear it so that I don't, you know, like wear it improperly. But hopefully we can wear those.
Yeah, maybe
in
if your
public one
friends
day.
are, if we're going to the festival with your friends and they're dressing up, I'll dress up with them.
Yeah,
We can be a little group.
it'd be fun.
It'll be fun. But yeah, and then
Yeah, we'll talk about the festival after this weekend.
Yeah, although I asked one of my coworkers if he was going, and he was like, "Oh no."
Why? It's the first time it's happened in 3 years.
So he's a bit of an odd duck.
Well,
He's-
maybe he just doesn't like crowds.
So also, it's very unfortunate, but his name literally means big sail.
Oh.
And so one of my other coworkers always calls him Big Sail Sensei.
Oh.
He says it in English, and it cracks me up so much. So now I feel bad because when I talk to this guy, I'm always on the verge of calling him Big Sail Sensei.
Oh my gosh, that poor guy.
He's very nice,
It
but
probably also means something else.
no, it's literally the kanji is Big Sail. And
He's worth a lot.
yeah. But I actually did my first class with him today. And this
Okay.
is like months into the school year. But he finally asked me to come to a class.
Oh,
He was like,
You're
"Oh,
building
like,
trust.
maybe." I
Maybe.
really don't know. I think maybe one of the other teachers was like, "Oh no, like you should actually get him to go to the class." And so
Please take me with you.
I don't know, but so I had the class with him today, and so I was asking him in like a little bit of the downtime during the class. I was like, "Oh, are you going to the thing?" And then I asked another one of my coworkers, the one that calls this guy Big Sail Sensei, and he has to work all weekend.
Really?
Yeah, apparently
school?
this weekend in Ishikawa is some kind of giant like high school club tournament up in Noto.
Oh.
And so he was like, yeah, a bunch of kids are having to go up to Noto. And I was like, but it's the weekend of the thing.
It's the same prefecture.
Yeah, and he said that, yeah, a lot of kids are like really upset because they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to go to the festival. Like, I've been looking
Aw.
forward to this. But instead, they have to go to Noto for this club thing. And I was like, oh, like, are you bummed you're missing the festival? And he's like, I just want to sit at my house.
Oh.
He was kind of like,
I
I
get
just want
that.
time to relax.
That poor guy.
Well, he just had a kid, and I think they were getting ready to have a second kid. So I
Mm.
think he's just
He needs
tired.
some rest.
Yeah. So he was talking about that, and I was like, oh, man. But yeah, he said a bunch of kids are pretty upset because they can't go to the festival.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
And I was like, I can't believe that they would organize this on the same day. And he was like, it's because the government hates the children. I was like, dang.
That's the reason.
Yeah, he's very kind of like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
very dry.
I like him. Yeah, he's a super funny guy. But yeah, he was like, said something about it's because the government hates high schoolers or something. I was like,
That'll show them.
yeah, I was like,
No fun for them.
I know.
I gotta go up to Noto.
So I felt bad, but yeah,
Wow.
they'll
Well,
miss it.
yeah. Hopefully the sun comes out for this. You know.
I think
I
there's
didn't-
a chance of rain during the weekend.
Ooh, I didn't
Yeah.
really think about like the impending rain season also being around the
Yeah,
long-awaited festival.
yeah.
We'll let you know. So, another thing. This is the final question she asked us that I could answer. She asked us a couple others that I still need to think about the answers to. But she was wondering what our favorite local food that we've mastered cooking. I haven't mastered any any Japanese cooking, but we have been able to like practice cooking a lot more things that I would
Yeah.
never have cooked in the
And
US.
I think it's pretty tricky because a lot of Japanese cuisine, so honestly, eating out in Japan is not super expensive.
Well, depending.
And yeah, I mean, like you can go to like a kaiseki dinner and pay tons of money. But for example, we have like a really nice, we've been going recently, ramen restaurant that's just down the street from us. And we ate dinner there the other night, and the two of us plus a drink each, and it was like $15 or
Yeah.
something like that. It's like,
But I mean that is just ramen. But yeah,
but for example, like, so we wouldn't cook ramen at home.
right, yeah, I don't
Unless
have
it was
time to
instant ramen.
make the broth and everything.
Yeah, because a lot of Japanese cuisine is kind of not like an art, but the level of the skill you need to
yeah, I mean,
really
arguably
pull it off.
kaiseki is like an art form.
Well, yeah,
Like
I guess that's
plating
kind of
and
what
finding
modern
seasonal dishes.
dining is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we don't really do a lot of like in-depth like Japanese
No.
cuisine
People are like,
cooking at home.
"Oh, what kind of meals do you cook for Zeb?" And I'm like, "Rice and fish."
Yeah, it's great.
Or like rice and eggs. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of like rice with something on it. So
Mhm.
I guess
Which is fine.
yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
really
good.
tasty.
But
Because then it is like, oh, if we want, sushi or,
yeah.
okonomiyaki.
But I guess
we can-
like to answer her question about what kind of more local foods we've been cooking, some things that I never didn't think I would cook are like okonomiyaki. I'm not
Mhm.
cooking it well, but I can buy cabbage is very cheap here. And so there's a lot of dishes that include cabbage because of that. And so there's like little instant packet
They sell like kits.
yeah.
Like a little,
So
kind of like
all
a
you
build your
have
own
to
pizza.
do-
It's
Yeah.
a make your own okonomiyaki.
Yeah, you just have to add the like egg and vegetables and onion types
Mhm.
things. Another thing I've been trying to practice, I'm not good at this, but onigiri. So like the rice balls that have filling inside. I actually
Yeah.
had to
High School Me would be so disappointing because I've yet to get the cute little anime
like a bento
box from, your
Man,
crush at school. I
yeah.
show up to school and I have just a sack full of.
If somebody like took the time to make a bento box for their high school crush, that's just like beyond because
Yeah, it's
I don't
super
know
over the
how
top.
Japanese moms have the time and the knowledge to like make these really artful bento lunches. And I know it would be stereotypical to assume that everyone does this, but
Yeah.
there are like
There are some people that do it.
yeah,
But
and it's all I can do to make a
like
onigiri.
my former Kyoto sensei, my former vice principal, he
Mhm.
had not quite like a bento box, but every day he had a pretty traditional Japanese lunch that he had this like tray and he had all the different little dishes on his tray.
Yeah.
And his wife made it for him every day.
I mean, I guess it's like people that get really good at meal prep. Like you make all these sides and then you can add like a little bit of
Yeah.
each side throughout the week.
Yeah, because I guess a lot of things are kind of the same thing, but just
Mhm.
kind of rearranged or with a different sauce or something.
Yeah.
So you could kind of
And sometimes
combine
your
things.
side will just be like 3 bites. And I
Yeah.
don't know, in Western food, your side is kind of like, you only have like 2 or 3 because they're kind of a hearty portion. Like they're like
That's
a
true.
third to a half of the main dish.
Like if you go to like a standard Western restaurant, they're pretty proud about like one meat and 3 sides.
Yeah.
And here it'd be like
One
10
meat
sides.
and 10 sides.
Yeah.
Just a bite of each.
Yeah.
I guess you might be steering like too close to kaiseki with that, but yeah, bento is like a lot of like tiny bites of lots of things.
Sometimes I've gotten some bento boxes through like work things. But yeah, they are typically like a nice little box, and I'll have like 5 different things.
But I bought a mold to make onigiri because it's all I can do to keep the ball of rice like together.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at that. And also saran wrap has been helpful. But I guess a lot of times I feel like like I'm going through like college or like puberty again because I have to like relearn how to do all these very basic like how do I buy groceries? Like
Yeah.
how do I like I remember when I turned 16 and I had to call my mom at the gas station because I was like, I'm pretty sure I know how to pump gas, but like can you walk me through it?
Oh
You know,
my.
like
Yeah.
there's so many things that I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is how you do it, but
Yeah.
I don't exactly know.
Because I was thinking about this when we were talking about this leading into recording this episode, that I mean, there are other places like this in the world, so Japan isn't exclusive or special, but it is a pretty drastic change of diet to go from a pretty typical Western diet to an Eastern country where, like, even, going into the grocery store.
Yeah, I had to
You
get like a
can't-
whole new list of like my grocery store staples.
Yeah, because you can find some things that are pretty close. So this is like good if you're coming over on the JET program and you love cheese. You should eat a bunch of cheese right now. Because you can find cheese here, but it's like close. It's not the exact
yeah.
same.
It's also not like hard cheese.
Yeah, and it's even so we've traveled in Europe a lot, and in Europe there would be, local specialties, or there would be like little unique snacks. So there's always something new and interesting to try, but a lot of times there were kind of variations of things we were fairly used to. And you could still find what you liked in America, even in like a European grocery store.
Yeah.
Or, there would be things that are pretty much the exact same version. But here in Japan, it's sometimes hard to find things that are the exact same version. You'll find things that are close.
Or they're like
but-
so out of the price range that I just don't want them. Like one example is
Yeah.
tortillas, which was like on my college grocery staple list because they're really cheap. And
Yeah,
you
we
can
used to
eat
buy
them
so many packs
for
of
every
tortillas.
meal, like
Yeah.
quesadillas, burritos. You can
I
have
used to
like
make PB&Js out of
yeah, you can
quesadillas
put
or
peanut butter and
tortillas.
jelly and like put it in your like jersey pocket for a ride.
Yeah.
Like very inexpensive breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's not that Japan doesn't have tortillas. I just don't want to spend like $5, the equivalent of like $5 on tortillas that would cost me $1.
And also
in the
you
US.
would get like 5 tortillas.
Yeah.
Or back home, you could roll into Walmart and buy like one of those mega packs of like 30 tortillas
Right.
for like nothing.
Yeah, like when Zeb made me stop shopping for groceries at Walmart because he was like, "We're better than this," but
No, I
not
loved
that
going
we're
to Walmart.
better than this, but
It was so affordable.
yeah.
I was a big fan.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
There were some times that I would bring back stuff and it was like a little too. I think the line was like when I would bring back the 60 eggs in one box, and you would feel bad
I felt bad
because
about those, and then
you don't
also the frozen veggies. But that's another example that
just
you
because
can.
the eggs, like the chickens, weren't kept in like the nicest
Yeah.
conditions. But
But even like you can go into a grocery store in America and go to the frozen veggie section, and get really like anything you could possibly want. And here the vegetables are very specific
and part
fairly
of that
different.
has to do with like we're in a smaller town, so the grocery store we're going to is not. I mean, this is probably completely different if you live in a bigger city in
Yeah.
Japan, but. Yeah, so it's not the end of the world by any means. I just have to adjust. Like,
Yeah.
instead of being like, I'm going to get tortillas.
I feel better about it now. I think definitely the first month or two, I was not having a difficult time, but I was missing foods I was eating more, and I didn't find things as quite appealing.
Mm-hmm.
But now I've gotten to the point where when I'm like craving a food that I'm kind of thinking of as kind of a comfort food, sometimes I will be thinking about a Japanese food. And I'm like, oh yeah, like it would be really nice if we could have ramen tonight or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas when we first moved here, I'd be like, dang, I really wish we could have pizza tonight. But just
The hardest thing for me has been like snack foods because I would have a lot of like chips and salsa, and salsa is not very popular here.
Oh,
I would
yeah.
have a lot of like, or guacamole is also not very popular. We have it, but it's just more
Yeah.
expensive. Hummus is a really big one. I used to eat a lot of hummus.
Yeah. Kind of forgot about hummus.
Yeah. And just also fresh fruit, like specifically apples. We eat bananas every day because those aren't
Mm.
terribly expensive, but apples are really expensive. And the
Yeah.
county in North Carolina that we're from is known for apples. So you could get like a whole bushel for very cheap. So just having to like adjust my snack food preferences has been
Yeah,
harder.
because like a really good example is we went to the beach recently and we were like, oh, let's have like a nice little sunset picnic on the beach.
Yeah.
And so,
We're beach people now.
yeah. And I mean, thankfully the grocery store is on the way to the
Yeah.
beach. So we stopped in there to, get some typical snacky stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we did like snack type things back home or in Europe, we would kind of recreate a like poor man's version of like a cheese board
Yeah.
where we could get,
bread, cheese, grapes.
yeah, like some nicer, like not like a baguette, but some like a French style loaf of bread, maybe some
Mm-hmm.
nicer cheeses and some grapes and maybe like a pate or something.
Yeah, there's no pate here.
I mean,
Well,
yeah.
I guess there are things that you would consider pate. If you're thinking like pate is just like ground up animal parts
Yeah.
in a jar.
I guess my point is
There
like
is that here.
we cannot recreate that experience and that meal here in Japan,
Right.
at least where we live.
Right.
And even if we went to Kanazawa and we went to like the Imza or
Mhm.
something and we wanted to spend a lot of money,
Mhm.
we could maybe come close to recreating it.
Yeah, but on the flip side, there are things here that I would never have eaten back home. Like sushi
Yeah.
was a very rare thing at
Yeah.
home. Or, the grocery store sushi was fine, but the quality was lower and it was still like kind of expensive, just for
Mhm.
you would have a lunch, but it would be kind of a pricey lunch and not be super filling.
Yeah.
And here, I mean, the grocery store sushi here is pretty good because the fish is fresh and
Yeah.
also
or just in general, the pre-made
it's
grocery
like
store food here.
$5 for like a massive tray
Mhm.
of like to-go sushi.
Yeah,
here.
either nice sushi or you can get yakisoba or okonomiyaki, like
Yeah.
any like classic Japanese dish.
Mhm.
So yeah, just a change in diet. But
So,
I guess long answer short is we don't make any of this at home.
oh. yeah, no. I eat way more rice here. I never ate natto before I came here. Another thing I like is like rice sprinkles. So
Mhm.
for akake, it's like seasoning type stuff you sprinkle on your rice. And also the variety of seaweed here. I was telling some of my Japanese friends how in America, at least in the mountains of North Carolina, seaweed is just seaweed. Like,
Yeah,
I
like
know
you could
there's
buy it
a
at
million.
our local store.
Yeah, but it's all either it's using the Japanese
Yeah.
word like, oh, this is nori, but
Yeah.
it like we don't have an English word for any of
Yeah.
those.
But here there's like a
Seaweeds.
seaweed aisle
Yeah,
that is
And,
just seaweed.
of course they all have their own name.
Hmm.
But yeah, when we were on the beach, we were getting different snack things and trying to branch out. And one of the things we saw was like, oh, this says cheese on it, and I don't know what chikuwa is. And we tried to Google translate it, and it just said like chikuwa in English.
Yeah.
And we were like, all right, well, we'll just get that and try it. That's like my mentality when I go to the grocery store. Just like, well, I'll just buy this. But yeah, so it's fish cake. It was
It's
tasty.
fish cake in a tube form filled with cheese in the middle and then deep fried.
Yeah, and apparently chikuwa means bamboo ring.
Oh.
Because, it looks kind of like a bamboo stalk, like with the
That's
hollow
interesting.
inside. And so they put filling on the inside. But yeah, if you're in the grocery store and you're like, Google Translate says chikuwa is just chikuwa,
Yeah.
it means fish cake.
Yeah, if you're a little adventurous, there's tons of good stuff to eat. But
Yeah.
yeah, you have to branch out a little bit. And so otherwise, I think next thing is if you're applying for the JET program and you got accepted, congratulations. And then also you probably know your placement now, which is really cool
Yeah.
because
Or you'll be hearing it any day now.
yeah, there have been tons of exciting stories on the internet about people figuring out where they've been placed and they're figuring out what schools they're going to. And this is definitely, I think, hands down the most exciting time because when you apply, it's exciting. When you figure out if you got accepted for an interview, it's exciting.
It is
And
also
then-
like the most nerve-wracking because sometimes, I think a lot of the time, you find out and you're like, part of you is a little disappointed because, in your head,
Maybe, yeah.
you have these 3 top options that you put down and in the back of your mind, like they're not going to consider
Mhm.
your top 3, but you still are kind of like, well, wouldn't it be great if they did? And like, what if I get placed in like the center of Tokyo and I'm one of the lucky
Yeah.
few, like so many people want Tokyo. And so, yeah, I think there are a lot of people who are like, well, I requested a a city and they put me on an island, or like
Yeah.
something that's
I
all
mean,
of
I
a
think that
sudden.
happens, but either way, it's like you now know where you're going to be
Yeah.
in Japan, and
I mean, that's
you can
true.
start dreaming about what your life will actually be like because you know where you're going,
Mm-hmm.
and you can start looking on like Google Maps and kind of reading about your area and everything. So
Yeah.
it's really exciting. So if you're listening to this and you got accepted to the JET program, let us know where you got placed because that's
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah, I really liked looking, just finding on Google Maps where we were and like zooming in and looking at all the
Yeah,
different
I've been trying
stores.
to do transcripts for our older episodes, and we keep saying that we have them, and
We have like
we're
4.
working on it. And it's funny going back and like looking through the transcript of some of the earlier episodes and
Mm-hmm.
seeing kind of like what we were thinking or what we were talking about. And there are some examples, I'll have to look at them again, but there are moments where some of the stuff we were talking about in the episode, like now that we're here, I'm like, oh yeah, that didn't happen, or like that definitely wasn't a concern, or we didn't have anything to worry about with that, or
Yeah.
yeah. So
But
yeah,
it's very
everything.
exciting. It's like a
Yeah,
nerve-wracking, exciting time. So tell us about it.
yeah, it's tons of fun.
Well, what's your word of the week?
So this one's related to food, and it's because it came up in my kanji study recently. It's ninjin.
Carrot.
Yeah, and it's because the kanji for his nin is person, and jin is I'm gonna mix this up. The kanji that they use for it is like to participate
Oh.
or like participation. So it's like a weird person participation, but for some reason it means carrot. So ninjin.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's good to know because I kept forgetting the word for carrot, so maybe I can remember it now.
I'll see the kanji and I'll know the reading, and hopefully I'll remember it now since I'm talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was reviewing it today and I was like, what is person participation? I was like trying to think so hard and I got it wrong, and then I looked at it, I'm like, oh, it's carrot. Like doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
who knows?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh well. What's
mine
yours?
is Nichibotsu.
Nichibotsu.
Mm-hmm. Means sunset.
Oh.
Yeah. Because when we went and went and had a little picnic on the beach, we saw the sunset.
Yeah, we're right next to the Sunset Park
That's true. Yeah,
with the Lover's Bridge.
they have the bridge in Uchinada is the Lover's
Yeah.
Bridge.
I do like that bridge a lot.
Yeah.
Our little Sunset Park. Mostly because when I'm out like on a bike ride, I can always like find Uchinada
Oh yeah.
if I look around.
Because you can see the bridge
Yeah.
from so far away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice. What was he in Nichibotsu?
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah, like sun, like falling, sun like going down. Nichi is sun.
Oh.
So, yeah, sunset Nichibotsu. But
That's exciting.
yeah, it's well past Nichibotsu
That's-
now.
It's late.
Yeah, so probably call it a day. But thanks for listening as usual, and hopefully you found some entertainment from our mundane daily events.
Yeah.
And
Just our boring old life here.
Yeah.
Which maybe next episode won't be so boring, so you should tune in because we're gonna go to that festival.
yeah,
And
hopefully
hopefully it
there's
doesn't
something
rain. But
exciting in that.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm just giving him a hard time. I actually think it's really funny and nice that the mundane daily events are, something entertaining.
I'm glad somebody appreciates it. So
But we'll see you guys next week.
yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.